This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.
Hey, what's happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast. I'm excited today. We have a power couple that's on today. Charlie Hartwell is the managing director of Bridge Builders Collaborative, a group of highly successful investors who have been investing in startup companies in the space of mental health, consciousness, and spirituality. Some of their investments include Pear Therapeutics, Insight Timer, Headspace, and Happify Health. A Harvard Business School graduate, Charlie has served and led organizations in 14 different industries, including starting a nonprofit in the slums of Kenya in 1986 that has now served healthcare to several million patients. Maureen Pelton is a social scientist and spiritual teacher with 36 years of professional experience as a holistic psychotherapist, executive coach, organizational consultant, adjunct faculty, and a group facilitator. Maureen is a teacher on Insight Timer and is a certified advanced practitioner of quantum neuro reset therapy and is a partner of Bridge Builders Collaborative. Wow, you guys are so darn busy. I literally got tired with everything you all have been doing. How you doing today, you guys?
We're good.
We're good.
Nice to talk to you, JM.
It's awesome to talk to you guys. And it sounds like you guys are out there obviously making moves. You're helping a lot of people. There's a lot to unpack in what you're doing, but why don't you give me a 2 to 5 minute, just how did we get to where we're at today? Both you guys coming together and what you're doing today.
Okay, I'll start. 36 years ago, I had a spontaneous mystical experience and shifted from going to law school to graduate school to find context for my experience. And I've been studying human development, social sciences, spirituality, and came to realize we are energetic beings in physical form having a human experience. And in my work, I have been passionate about human flourishing, and have worked in taught at the university, had a private practice, worked in the medical setting. And when Charlie came into my life, I was ready for a shift in consciousness and bringing scalable, scientifically valid applications to the masses. And I was involved with the Mind and Life Institute, which is involves His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the scientists studying contemplative practices. So Charlie came into my life and go.
And then the shit hit the fan. No, sorry. So my own passion is about change, innovation, authentic leadership, transformation. And I'm really comfortable when I'm helping to co-create global movements. And through Maureen's introduction to the Mind and Life Institute, I met the three founders and visionaries behind Bridge Builders Collaborative, a guy named Jeff Walker, a guy named Scott Krins, a guy named Austin Hurst. And they were asking the question whether the science of contemplative practice had gotten to a point where there was anything to invest in to bring it to scale. They found me to answer that question. And we were the first professional investors in this space, sort of mental health, mindfulness, et cetera. And we've been operating for 10 years. We've helped, we've invested in 15 companies. All are still operating. 100 million people are meditating that weren't meditating before on the platforms we've invested in. We've helped to co-create a new global industry, and hopefully, provided invitations for people around the world to begin their own process of transformation.
Well, you mentioned 100 million, I think, and my goodness, it has been an absolute shift in the Western world where people have really started to embrace, whether it be mindfulness, meditation, really just quieting the mind. And thank you, because it is truly an incredible practice. So really appreciate you guys doing that. why transformation came up? What was it that made you decide, okay, law school, maybe it's not my thing. There's energy. And then we're mixing business and this Eastern world together, which is pretty amazing. So what made this happen for you guys?
Human suffering. I think that as a social scientist, you learn that from the moment you're born, you're being conditioned, you're being programmed, you're being entrained, and that causes a lot of suffering. And so this idea of we can move beyond that, we can quiet our minds, look at our narratives, see our reactions, understand some of our beliefs. Maybe they were true once, but they're not anymore. And who do we really want to be? And what is our purpose and passion? And how do we connect more deeply to ourselves so that we can align with our truth and also connect more deeply with others, which is really important to me. We're not here alone. Like, it's really important that we connect to ourselves and to each other and to something greater than us so that we can evolve and move things along. And kindness, compassion, caring, forgiveness, those are essential, but those come from our hearts, not our heads. So I really, getting out of that ruminating and overthinking and pressure we put on ourselves and getting into our hearts, where, I don't know if you know this, there are more signals going from our heart to our brain than our brain to our heart. Science has shown us that. So what's really in our hearts? What really brings us joy? What do we really want in this world, and in our experience as a human? And so that's what motivated me.
Well, I mean, obviously you said you literally were surrounded by the Dalai Lama at one point, which that's pretty, I'm sure you have learned some things along the way. My goodness. You mentioned the word connection, and then almost simultaneously you said community. Talk to me a little bit more about what that looks like, because what I'm hearing is, look, these are being kind. This is being generous. This is, having compassion, caring. These are all emotions we have the resources to really get to, but you mentioned the word conditioning. So talk to me about connection, community, and how that all comes together with some of these conditions that we are clearly brought up to believe a certain way, like business is a certain way. So anyway, just start there. And what is community and connection?
Well, so a good example is we are raised in a family system, and every family system has dysfunction, and we don't know any different because it's the only thing we know. And so connection, there's a belief that we're supposed to connect in that way because they're our family. And as we start to grow, our 20s are meant to be that adult, or we really are discerning what's true for us and what do we want to move forward with from our family and the systems we were raised in, and what do we want to leave behind. So connection is really about what's true for me, what is really true for me, and how do I want to move forward and engage in the world, and what do I want to let go of. And when we do that, sometimes we have to let go of people and our relationships and how we engage in our families, but we move into new relationships and communities that are in more resonance with us. So just to give you an example, because this is an area I focus on, which is really challenging. A lot of people are not raised with good, healthy boundaries. They don't even know what boundaries are. So they begin to understand what boundaries are: physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, energetic boundaries, and they start to set them. And their family doesn't like it because they react to it, because there haven't been boundaries. And so you may have to limit your engagement with people who are not respectful of your boundaries, but you will find people then who are respectful of boundaries and know how to set boundaries and respect boundaries. So that's a really good example of having to make a shift from what we've been conditioned into what really is for our highest potential.
So you mentioned the word, I think everybody can really wrap their head around physical and certainly mental boundaries. However, energetic boundaries, this is not new age, but it's certainly something that I think is becoming more prevalent that it's the world is energy. But what does that mean when you say energetic boundaries? Is that like somebody's walking by and I'm feeling that's shitty energy, man? I don't want anything to do with it. Or is it that, is it something as simplistic as that?
In a way, I think a better example that your listeners might understand is, you're in a good energy, you're happy, things are, in alignment, and you go to have lunch with a friend, and you're with the friend having lunch you care about, and they're depressed, and they're talking about what's happening and their depression. And I'm not saying they even know they're depressed, but they're in that energy and they're talking about it. And your energy will start to match theirs. It will drop down. Unless you're conscious, it will start to go down to match it. Lunch is over, you're walking away and you're like, oh, I don't feel so great. Like, what happened? My energy is low. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I just absorbed that. Or you could say I lowered my energy to match theirs. And you're impacted by it. Just like another example would be being conscious of it, being at lunch with your friend, seeing that they're suffering, acknowledging their suffering, and staying in your vibratory rate and sending them loving kindness, as we call it, and asking them what they need, but not shifting your energy. You might actually raise their energy a little bit. That's how we exchange energy. And, we do this with pets and nature. And, it's not just human to human.
No, and that does make sense. I hope people are understanding. The other thing that you mentioned is letting go. You specifically said that terminology, and there's a lot to unpack there because truly, I don't know, releasing or letting the whole idea when you said it, I'm like, yes, I can see it going away. Talk to me a little bit more about what that means to you when you say that out loud.
Letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's non-attachment. I mean, non-attachment is a Buddhist concept, but letting go means not being attached to anything, letting it go. Like, I think I know, I mean, let's just take relationships. I'm in a friendship with someone and I'm attached to it and they may not be treating me that well, but I don't want to let it go because I've known them a long time. And you have to say, like, I have to let that go because I'm not being treated well. And when you do that, it's hard, there's grief, but you realize, oh, I'm actually better. Like, I don't really miss them or how they treated me. And I deserve better. It could be attachment to money. It could be attachment to where you live. It could be attachment to a job. And this is Buddhists say that you're grasping and attached, that's what causes suffering. And when we let go, something else does come along and it's usually for the better, but we can't conceptualize that with our brain because we are so attached to the familiar and the comfortable.
So if we don't let go, we can't let this other amazing thing in. Is that the whole idea?
Exactly. And our minds are limited. So we think we know, but when we let go, something we could never even imagine could show up. It's beautiful.
So Charlie's being quiet on the sideline here. We're going to get him in the game. One of those things I saw, one of the companies I'm familiar with is Headspace. I think of Andy talking when I hear Headspace. What was the idea with really bringing meditation to the masses, to the Western world, and making it so user-friendly? Talk to me about that. As an investment, obviously you're investing in this business, but it's been so wildly successful. Where did that come from? Was it, I'm going to go make a buck, or we're going to go ahead and provide a lot of value, and or both?
It's both for us. And I can talk a little bit more just about investment, but I'll talk about Headspace. So 10 years ago, when we started on this journey and we saw that science was proving the benefits of meditation, what really impressed me about Rich and Andy, who started the company, were that they had a concept that was about how to make it accessible to this culture. I mean, it was coming from the East, obviously, but what the reason we the reason why we invested, and they were in London at the time. And when we went over to visit them and we're doing our due diligence, we were just really impressed with their branding, the way they were thinking about that. And we, I'm impressed with where the company has gone. It has been a really good way to get people introduced to the concept of meditation, because they've not only done a good job of branding. They've made it so everyone has to do a good job of branding in the field. And there can be some negatives to that, of like, the brand has to match values, and you can't overpromise, etc. But I really liked how they thought about making this accessible. And it was really the only way that it was going to come into the Western society was to be well branded.
If you guys haven't had a chance, check out Headspace. It's truly incredible. And his tonality, is that literally how he talks? Because he is soothing. Is that Andy?
Yeah. Yeah, Andy talks the same way, whether you're at dinner with him or not. So that's Andy.
Oh, that's awesome, man. What is Insightful Timer? I saw that on both your guys's. What is that? I'm not familiar with it.
So I'll talk about that. To me, Insight Timer is actually the next level beyond Headspace. And I describe Insight Timer as a platform for abundance, and both the largest conscious library on the planet, and also one of the largest conscious communities on the planet. So Insight Timer is a place very different than most meditation apps. You find 60,000 meditations for free. Everybody else charges a monthly fee. They believe meditation should be accessible to everyone, and they have 10,000 teachers teaching in 44 different languages, native languages, to people in their own cultures. And so they've got this global community of people who are on their own spiritual path, who use Insight Timers. And what I love about Insight Timer is people actually use it. So if you think of the meditation space, you think of Headspace and Calm. Calm is valued at a $2 billion valuation. Insight Timer has actually 5 times more meditation done every day than Calm. And the reason is it's because it's a free community, and where it's a platform where teachers can benefit greatly through accessing a global audience and also receiving money, for their services, and where people can find content that they want for wherever they are on their journey, or in whatever spiritual tradition. There's, I think, 30 or 40 different spiritual traditions that are on the platform. So you can find what resonates with you. And you can find the teachers that work for, Andy's great. But Andy, for most people that I know, Andy's great when you're a beginning meditator, but if you really go deeper in your practice, he may not serve you anymore. Now you got to go find other people that you can learn from at that time.
It's interesting you say that, because the guided meditations, at some point, I think you reach this point where you're like, I'm ready for something more. For me, my father-in-law is Buddhist. He is from Thailand. So maybe that's where my Eastern influence came from, but I'm always going to the Buddhist temple. Well, I don't speak Thai. Challenge becomes I don't understand a lot of what they're saying, whether it's a mantra or some of the meditations. What really intrigues me about that, you said 30 to 40 languages, I think is what you said. And that's remarkable. You guys check that place out for sure. That's amazing. I want to talk about, since we're in this space, the necessity of inner work. Talk to me. Maybe this is your own personal practice, but when you say the necessity of inner work, what does that really mean?
Oh, well, that is everything. The inner work is to really look at our narratives, to look at our reactions, to look at our belief systems and our projections and what filters we're looking through. We change and transformation comes from within, and the clearer we are, the more we do our inner work, which is messy and difficult, the more clear we become, and the less the external world has an impact on us. And the more in flow and in synergy and synchronicity we can be. But the inner work really is, owning our stuff.
No, it's interesting because people think of meditation so often, or journaling, or quieting the mind, or taking a hike, and they think, oh, it's so easy and this is just a journey. But what you said is it's messy. When you're getting in there, you're starting to unpack some things. So I like that you said that. It's not just, kumbaya and everybody's fine.
Right.
It's we're digging into some hardwires and things that we learned. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, very much so.
Can I just, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
No,
Charlie.
no, I was gonna actually translate this to, to the work we do in investing. And, for our entrepreneurs, I've told several of them this. When we look at a company, we actually look for the individual work that the founder has done. Because the scariest thing to me is someone that's worked at Google, that knows how to scale something, goes to a meditation retreat for a weekend, has their life changed, knows how to scale that, and then, boom, that's what they want to do. That is not going to help humanity, at least from my perspective. The willingness of the entrepreneur and the leaders of the company to do their inner work, from my perspective, actually gets translated to whatever it is that they're creating, both in how they deliver the content, and Maureen can talk more about it, but just the energy of the platform. And so we really look for people who are, who are happy to get messy, who are willing to go deeper themselves, because the deeper they go, the more positive impact they can actually make from their business. That's my perspective.
Yeah.
Maureen, I didn't know if you had on the energy, because I have a follow-up question specific to, Charlie had mentioned abundance earlier, and the idea of giving and receiving. I think so often people miss this part, right? They're so often people are willing to give, but they won't receive that gift, or vice versa. They'll receive, but they forget to give. Can you talk about that? Maybe that lends to the whole energy of the business, but that's what I see when I hear abundance. It's not just thinking, oh, there's so much out there. It's literally giving and being willing to receive.
Right. Yeah, I call that reciprocity. Like, where's the reciprocity? And that's, again, back to the boundary setting. If you're doing all the giving, that's not a good connection. That's not a good relationship. There has to be reciprocity, because if there isn't, over time, it deteriorates. Resentment builds on both sides. And so the reciprocity is essential. And I think, you'd asked Charlie the question about our investments. Is it about the money or the impact? And the truth is it's both. And we very much, want, as we invest, we want it to be sustainable. We want to have some return, but more importantly, we want it to have an impact. And so the abundance is, as we're putting out that energy of trying to have an impact for social good, that what comes back to us is really positive experiences and, an increase in our investment. That's the reciprocity. It's both.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just both.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me, because if you don't make money, you can't sustain, you can't scale, you can't get it out there. And so I think so often the people think it's clashing, but people are talking about, what is your why? Why do you exist? And you do need to have, scalability. You need to be able to get it to more people. That's the influence. So, gosh, there's so many different interesting ways to go with it. You talked about shifting from polarity to paradox. I'm just going to totally shift gears, since the word shift is in there.
Yeah.
What does that really mean and look like for you guys?
That's really good, because that comes along, that actually is a follow-up to reciprocity. Polarity is black and white, either or. It's that third dimensional reality. And so there's no abundance in that. There's scarcity. But paradox is both and. It's both and. And so there's a lot of gray. And that's where the reciprocity is. And that's where abundance is. And, there's enough for everyone. It's both and we don't have to, race to the bottom. And paradox is also where the oneness is. You hear that spiritual practices talk about the oneness. That is the oneness. It's both and we're all connected, and we're all going to suffer if we don't all let go and heal and grow.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about your own, I guess, practices, if you will, on a daily basis, what that looks like. Is it meditation for X amount of time? Is it journaling? Is it getting in nature? Is it grounding ourselves? What does that look like for you guys on a daily basis?
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
So I just live in it all the time. So I am about embodiment. So being grounded, being present, being in my body, experience-based awareness is much more important than thought-based knowledge. Breath work is essential. I would say, I certainly can meditate, but for me, I'm much more kind of going into a trance state where it's much more multidimensional. I am there kind of 24/7, and nature is essential for sure. Water for me is essential. Lots of hot tubs, lots of Epsom salt baths.
That's your temple.
Yeah. And we're very playful. I mean, that is also very important to us. So a lot of laughter, a lot of play, a lot of, dance parties, anything and everything to be in joy, but in connection, which, we are joy. So, for me at this point in my life, after 36 years, it's not so much a practice as a way of being. And of course, the simple things like exercise, eating right, sleeping are essential, because the physical form needs that.
Yeah, I just want to say the dance parties in our house turn into laughter as well when people look at how I dance. And so I'll just say that I help everyone else's spiritual practice of laughter. So for me, what's really fun is I'm not a ritualistic person per se. I have this job where I get to try everything. It's actually part of my job. So, so I've tried many different, I've looked at 1,200 companies in the space over the last 10 years. I haven't tried all of their products, but I've, when I see something, I like it. So, I want to try it myself. So I've had, many different experiences with, some of the world's leading spiritual teachers, technologies, etc. What I find in common with Maureen, for me, my favorite mindfulness app is Mother Nature, for sure. That's where I get inspiration. And in my daily practice, I do use Insight-Timer. I use it differently every day, but I use that consistently because I love, each time I go on, I'm doing my practice and it shows where people are around the world. I'm doing it with like 10,000 other people at the same moment around the world and 500,000 people every day. And to me, that's kind of cool, is to be practicing in a global community.
Well, the word community, that is remarkable just to hear that number and to say, hey, I'm with somebody in, I don't know, India and somebody in Russia. And that's amazing. You mentioned breath work, Maureen. I want to talk about that just because I am a huge proponent of several different breathing techniques. In fact, it's so interesting we're talking today. I did a blog specific on breathing and how poorly we breathe typically. So talk a little bit about that, because I don't know that everybody knows the most humanistic thing we do, breathing. We kind of suck at it.
Right. That's so funny because on Insight-Timer, I'm a teacher and I only have one course. I have embodiment practices, but I have one course and it's about conscious breathing because we are unconscious breathers. Our mammal friends, the dolphins, are conscious breathers. They have to consciously go up to the surface to get their breath. And we are unconscious, and we have patterns of breathing that are actually quite destructive. So simple things like just breathing in through the nose is so much better than breathing in through the mouth. And simple things like polyvagal nerve, we know that if we just increase our exhale to be twice as long as our inhale, we activate the polyvagal nerve, which is activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what causes us to stay calm. So just a simple breath of breathing in through the nose into the belly and exhaling twice as long as the inhale can make a world of difference. Then there's many different breathing techniques, all of which are fun and useful, and finding one that works for you. You know, Dr. Weil's anxiety breath of 4-7-8, breathing in for 4, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8, helps people reduce anxiety, helps people go to sleep. My favorite is the connected conscious breathing, because it can actually activate an altered state. But breath is everything. And if you look at it, yoga and meditation, it all starts with breath. And so what I would like to see is a world full of conscious breathers.
Have you had a chance to read Breath by James Nestor? I'm just curious.
No, I haven't read the book, but I've read some of the articles about it, and it's awesome. It's so great that he came out with that, because he's got a lot of good scientific information in there.
Yeah, his experiments and research. And again, I do breath work every single day, and I didn't realize outside of my normal breath work how poorly I was breathing, both sleeping and conscious when I'm awake. So it's so fascinating. We mentioned earlier in your bio, quantum neuro reset therapy.
Right.
Okay, I'm in. I want to hear all about it.
So it's the most efficient. So again, I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I've been trained in almost every modality because, as Charlie would tell you, I'm addicted to learning. But the most efficient and effective technique modality that I've seen to treat or to reset around trauma, adverse childhood experiences, emotional baggage is this quantum neuro reset therapy. And it involves using a light to do neurological testing on the 10 brain lobes to see if any are out of balance, and then using lasers and muscle testing to see if there's emotional tissue connected, and then the adrenal system, the nervous system. And basically this technique, your body tells the story. You know, if you know Bessel van der Kolk's work, The Body Keeps the Score, this is actually a modality that works with the body to tell you the story so that you can actually do a reset, which involves, it's complicated, but you're working on the body, and you do a reset to what the best word would be to clear the emotional pathway so that whatever's out of alignment comes into alignment. And I've seen miraculous change in people through this modality, and it takes maybe 40 minutes. It's very efficient and effective. And there's only about, I think, 80 of us trained in the world, because it's a pretty intense protocol that it involves a lot to be certified. But it's my favorite modality, and seeing deep, not just transformation, but transcendence for people.
Well, and I think anybody listening that's still, I don't know, stuck in Western medicine is the only way, this whole idea of Eastern medicine, this thought, what would you say to them to just maybe say, you know what, give it a try, open your eyes. Maybe medication isn't the answer. Maybe it's literally grounding yourself in Mother Nature. What would you guys say to those folks?
Well, I would say, I understand Western medicine, and if I was ever in a car accident, I would want it. But Western medicine's approach is that we are, biological chemical beings, and that we're going to address everything by altering the biology or the chemistry, which is lovely. But Eastern medicine, Eastern thought is that we are energetic beings, and we can actually tweak our energy. We can tweak our systems without having to use chemicals, and bring our biology into alignment. And I think the two work well together in times also. It's not one or the other, it's both. And again, we're in paradox. And, certain things, when you take a drug, it's suppressing a symptom. If you go to Eastern medicine and you use, let's just say acupuncture, or even I can never say it, Ayurvedic medicine, you're really looking at not treating the symptom, but treating the cause so that you shift it. So I would just say, what do you have to lose if to try? At this Alina, which is a healthcare system in Minnesota, I'm on the board of the integrative medicine. There are surgeons there, knee surgeons in particular, who won't even do knee surgery until the person's had acupuncture to see if that can alleviate it. I mean, it's becoming much more commonplace.
Can I just add one other thing, and like a personal story? So my mother had pain growing up, and every time a doctor tried to fix it, or there was a drug or something, that area might be better, but then I'd call her the next time, it'd be, oh my God, my elbow, oh my God, my knee, oh my God. So with Western medicine, in many different cases, what people aren't doing, and my mother was unwilling to actually go to where's the root of the trauma that's causing you pain. And because she wasn't willing to do that, I watched the pain go everywhere in her body, for literally from her head to toe over the time I knew her. And it just, and she always thought she was fixing it through some doctor doing something to it. And, and she was still suffering inwardly. And the pain was just finding the next place to exert itself.
I think anybody can relate with that. I mean, my goodness, how often do you take a thing and now you got a problem somewhere else? And that's I love that, Charlie. I got to ask you guys, just because you guys have such a diverse, interesting background, what are 2 to 3 of the most impactful books you've read that have really shaped your thinking that you can share with the audience?
I don't read a lot of books. To be honest, books don't inspire me. Or I can't think. I mean, I'm trying to think of one.
Don't go with books. And Charlie, what inspires you, brother? Because that's one of the questions I want to ask you. So go ahead.
Well, nature inspires me a lot. There are certain people that inspire me. I mean, Maureen inspires me. I have such joy living with her, and just being able to live this life together. That's like an inspiration to me. And then, in my work, I'm inspired, by a lot of spiritual teachers. And then increasingly, what inspires me are movements to increase, and the leaders who are increasing our awareness and the shift of how we treat women and minorities on this planet. And like when I see people standing up and taking action and creating change, that really inspires me.
Yeah, and I'm like Charlie. I read for pleasure, but I don't read a lot anymore because, as I mentioned, I'm much more interested in experience-based awareness than thought-based knowledge. But I do think a good book is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, about how our trauma we absorb in our bodies. That would be one I recommend. But I'm inspired by, I think, mostly young people. I can't get enough of them.
That is the fountain of youth, right?
They're just, these young people are so brilliant and alive, and they're a different level of consciousness. And I'm inspired by them.
So what haven't I asked you guys that you're like, dang it, Jam, we got to share this with the audience. You should have known to ask this, and I just didn't. This is open forum for you guys.
So one thing I think we could talk about and do a whole show on is something I mentioned earlier about, our commitment. I'll describe it one way, Maureen might describe it a different way, but how do we reshift the balance on the planet to being, in humanity, it's been very masculine based for the last many thousands of years. And that, patriarchal dominant suppression model is really negatively impacting humanity and, the other creatures that live on the planet. And so how do we shift that so that we listen to the wisdom of women, we value women equally, economically equally to men. We treat, we allow men the permission to explore the feminine inside of themselves, so they can feel as though that's a part, like a wonderful part of them, versus what we've been doing in our society for a long time, which is making that wrong and punishing anyone that sort of, any man that has emotions. So I think that's, we could probably talk for a while, but that's a passion that both Maureen and I share.
Yeah, because we're back to that paradox of both and the creative process and abundance. I mean, for that to really flourish, we have to have that integration. So yeah, we're very passionate about that.
Well, I would say having the conversation, right? That's a big part of it. The first part of my book, I literally start with vulnerability. I was taught boys don't cry. That's terrible advice. Like, I love my parents, they're amazing, but that is awful advice to say boys don't cry. Stuff down emotion and then it's going to blow like a volcano. Not a great idea. So having these conversations, I would say, it's not going to happen overnight. And I appreciate you guys bringing it up.
Let me just say one thing on that, because I didn't respond to the book, to a book recommendation, but I have a movie recommendation.
Yeah.
So Maureen got us involved in this film, The Mask You Live In, which addresses exactly what you were just describing. And we're both associate producers on the film. And I think it's a really great thing for parents to show their kids, but both the boys and their girls, about how we've raised our men to put these masks on and what damage that's caused in society. And it aired, it was produced by Jennifer Seville Newsom, the wife of Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. It came out in Sundance and got incredible reviews years ago. It's done really well, but that's a powerful message. And it's on, you can find it on
Netflix.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I mean, look, masks are for parties. They're not for every single day. And they get heavy when you keep putting that shit on. It gets heavy, man. We don't have enough for that. We got other stuff. So, hey, you guys, where can our listeners connect with you online?
Shiftit.com. Shiftit.com is our website. And then bbcollaborative.com is the Bridge Builders Collaborative. And then I'm a teacher on Insight Timer.
Awesome. Well, you guys, this was insightful. It was entertaining. I appreciate it. Charlie, keep dancing, brother. You got to keep making people laugh. I really appreciate you guys being here today and bringing this message to the world, bringing so much of what has impacted my life to the forefront of Western society. I really appreciate you being at the forefront of that.
Thank you.
Thanks, JM. This is really fun. I loved your questions and I just had a great time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I had a great time. I have a page full of notes for myself. You guys, I hope you did the same. These guys are bright. They're intelligent. They're warm. They're fun. There's so much to be gained from this. I hope you rewind, listen to it again and again. If you saw value, go ahead, go to Amazon, check out Let's Go Win. Literally, the first chapter is all about being vulnerable. Check it out. You'll get some value from it. I think it's like $10 or something. It's all for you guys. It's all about taking those masks off. Until next time, you guys continue transcending life. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.